It's our School Matters series, and today we are continuing the conversation on what the U.S. Surgeon General calls a crisis in youth mental health. The National Alliance on Mental Illness says that 50% of all mental health conditions appear by the age of 14, and schools play a vital role in providing or connecting children and families to services. We're joined now by the 2023 School Counselor of the Year. That is Meredith Draughn, who works at an elementary school in North Carolina. Claps for Meredith, indeed. And Brian Coleman. He's board chair of the Illinois School Counselor Association and leads a team at a Chicago high school. Good morning to both of you.
Yeah, well, he was School Counselor of the Year in 2019, so we have two school counselors.
Well, but what have you done for me lately?
Yes.
Whoa! I see what this is. Okay.
We are in very good hands for this conversation. Brian, I'll start with you on this. You know, the Surgeon General is saying there's a crisis in youth mental health. I think an older generation of Americans hears that and thinks it's a matter of toughness or generational softness, but it's something more than that. Could you talk about the issues facing kids today?
Sure. I think some of the big issues we're seeing are the depression, the anxiety, self-harm, suicidal ideation, the inability to self-soothe, manage relationships, make healthy decisions. There are a lot of these issues that are happening in communities that don't have enough tools and resources, and we're really hoping that students and their families will connect with school-based supports or community-based supports like the school counselors.
Yeah. You know, Meredith, I know the pandemic made things harder on multiple levels, including in the area of mental health. Are we still seeing the effects, or are things normalized?
You know, I think we're still seeing some effects, especially in that ability to self-soothe or use a coping skill when something maybe doesn't go your way. We're seeing, some what we call dysregulated behaviors. And so I like to say students who are not regulated will struggle to be educated. So when we look at that learning loss.
What does that mean?
Dysregulated behaviors. So again, that self-soothing, being able to cope with what is going on around you, whether that be you're in a loud grocery store, right, or a loud classroom, you're in gym, you're in music class, you're having all of these sensory things input into your body, and you're having to regulate, I can sit here, I can take a deep breath, I can respond to this correctly. And that has become a struggle for students who maybe sat at home and, were virtual learning for someone who didn't have to interact with the world around them.
Yeah, how do you know? When I was growing up back in the day, but I think most of us when we were growing up, we didn't even talk about mental health. I can't even remember a child having an issue like this. So how do you know when teenagers are just being teenagers going through things?
Right.
Or Houston, we have a problem, Brian?
Well, I think it can be very, very difficult, especially in the teenage years where it's like, okay, whatever, leave me alone.
Yeah.
We've all seen that a little bit.
Yeah.
I think some big things to look out for. One, is your child sleeping a whole lot more than they generally do, or a whole lot less, eating a whole lot more, eating a whole lot less? If they're not showing up in a way that you can recognize them, that's going to be an issue. Those are red flags. But also, you can reach out to the school. Your school-based staff are looking at your student on a daily basis. What are they seeing? Any concerns, changes in behavior? That's why it's so incredibly important that our families are developing strong relationships with the school team.
So parents and teachers should be working together.
Absolutely, and counselors, a bias, obviously, but yes.
But do you think parents sometimes get defensive?
100%. When you hear that something's going on with your child, it can be very easy to think, there's something wrong with me, or I did something wrong as a parent. Absolutely.
And no parent wants to hear that.
No parent wants to hear that.
Yeah.
That's why it's very important to be like, okay, what is this issue and what supports do I have to support my child? Because it can be very difficult. Parents often feel very isolated in those issues and they're not sure what to do. That's why we want to normalize those relationships with school-based staff, school counselors, school social workers, school psychologists, teachers, administrators, because the closer we work together, the more we can actually advocate on behalf of students' needs.
No doubt about it. That's great advice. Looking for breaks in the routine to see if there's something going on. Meredith, you work with younger children.
Yes.
So what are some questions that you can ask the younger kids to get them to open up?
Yeah, so I think I always like to say that adults should remain curious and just ask, general questions, but not open or not close-ended questions, right? So making sure that we are looking for why behavior might be occurring, but saying like, not just how was your day today, but what was your favorite part of today, right? And kind of sandwiching in, is anything wrong, right? So if anything, is there anything you would do different from today? What maybe would you like to change tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Or what would you like to do again? What's something that you, and so just those more specific questions that
How would you
allow that
handle that
opening for
situation
conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, Brian, I think
interesting.
That's really good,
I do think
isn't it,
that's
Tony?
interesting
Yeah.
because with teenagers, when you say, how was your day, you're automatically going to get a fine.
Oh, absolutely.
So what is the question you pose to
Yeah,
teenagers?
well, to a fine, I like to normalize that fine's okay to answer, but what does fine mean to you? And what's something that you learned today? I love a good scaling question. Counselors love scaling
I love a what
questions.
question?
Scaling, on a scale of
does it
1 to
mean?
5.
Oh.
1 being like, I don't feel this way at all. 5 being, I feel it very much. Where were you? How anxious were you for the day on a scale of 1 to 5 as you're starting your school day?
Then you can follow up.
Because then you
Yeah.
can follow
Yeah,
up. It's
you
such
can follow
an
up.
easy way to progress monitor, especially when students may not have the words, the numbers, right? Very easy way to check in and see how they're doing.
A good scaling question.
And if they stay at 3, well, why is it a 3 and not a 2, right? What went well enough for it to be a 3, or how could it be a 4 tomorrow? Those types of questions.
All right, that's really good advice. Meredith Draughn, Brian Coleman, thank you very much.
No wonder you were Counselors of the Year.
Counselors of the Year. Watch out 2024.
Makes perfect sense.
There's no competition. All right, School Matters. I appreciate it, guys. I really do,
you.
man.
Thank you
It's
so
good
much,
advice.
guys.